blessed and a wonderful good evening to one and all my viewers and subscribers. Here again in the parish of St. Andrew, outside of St. Andrew Parish Church, situated between Bell Plain and Walkers in St. Andrew. So I'm here again by St. Andrew's Parish Church roundabout here. I'm here at the roundabout here by St. Andrew Parish Church here in Barbados. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So as I said before, this road here will lead you back to Bell Plain in St. Andrew, where the Allen Secondary School, which is one of Barbados' top and all the secondary schools, and it will lead you back to the East Coast with the East Coast, with the Reborn Highway, that part of St. Andrew. The East Coast known as Barclays Park Beach, which is just around the corner here in St. Andrew. So Bell Plain, East Coast, Reborn Highway, and back to St. Joseph is this way, and the Allen School. St. Simon's and Lakes, all in this direction in St. Andrew. This way back to Barbados' highest point, Mount Hillaby, which borders St. Andrew and St. Thomas. St. Andrew, highest point, Mount Hillaby. Barbados' highest point is in St. Andrew. This way, back to Borden and Walkers and Rock Hall in St. Andrew from here as well. And Turner's Hall. So the church here. So this is the roundabout outside of St. Andrew Parish Church. So this is St. Andrew Parish Church, Anglican Episcopal. The original church was built in 1639, and by 1846 the original church was in such a bad state of disrepair they had to rebuild it to this structure here that it is today in 1846. So as I said before, people that pass in the street might be looking at me, but I don't really care who look at me. I'm doing a video of St. Andrew's Church. I'm starting from the surroundings before taking you into the church. Right? So when the people passing and looking at me, I don't care, it don't bother me at all. The grave of long-standing priest, the Reverend Canon Edward Godson Gatherer, devoted rector of this parish church of St. Andrew, from 1st of July 1957 to March 2011. Gatherer was born in 1928 on the 28th of January 1922 and died the 6th of February 2019. He was 97 years old. A story about Reverend Gatherer that I gathered. He was a Vincentian. He was born in St. Vincent, a neighboring Caribbean island, not too far from Barbados. But he was the rector here in the Diocese of Barbados. Back in the late 80s, when it was time for him to retire at 65 years old, he put the diocese in court after they wanted him to start conducting services here at St. Andrew. He put the Diocese of Barbados in court. He won the case, and he continued conducting services at St. Andrew Parish Church until until he couldn't go any further. Reverend Gatherer was here for so many years. It was also said that, I don't know if I should say this on camera or not, but I can say it nevertheless. It was said that people used to sign over their land to him on their dying bed. He used to make some people sign their land to him on their dying bed. The current priest here is Reverend Curtis Goodrich, who is a relative of mine. He was the long-standing priest of St. Lucy Parish Church for 40 years, from 1984 to 2024. The Reverend Curtis Goodrich is a relative of mine. So I'm walking through St. Andrew's Church Cemetery. So you can see the hills of St. Andrew from here into the Scotland countryside. You can see into the Scotland district from here. All up in the hills of St. Andrew, all up in Bisseps Hill, upper parts, lower parts of the Cambridge. We can see from here. St. Andrew is one of the most beautiful parishes in Barbados. All the high points in Barbados can be found here in St. Andrew. St. Andrew is a parish that is referred to as a backward parish by many Barbadians, and it is referred to as behind God back. It is downhill. It is a downhill parish. To get into the parish of St. Andrew, you have to go down a hill, no matter where you're coming from. Whether you're coming from St. Thomas, St. Joseph, St. James, a bit of St. James, Barbados, St. Andrew, but mostly St. Thomas, St. Joseph, and St. Peter. No matter where you're coming from, to get into St. Andrew, you have to go down a hill, and to come out of St. Andrew, you have to go up a hill. These hills in St. Andrew are not play hills either. They are serious hills. Give some vehicles trouble to get up. Especially the ones leading to St. Thomas, like coming up from Turner's Hall out Hillaby side, coming up to St. Thomas, and the one coming up Chapman's Village when you're coming up from Springville, that side of St. Andrew to lead you back to St. Thomas. And especially Farley Hill. Don't talk about Farley Hill, that one is a big challenge as well. The Rickinson grave, Florence Rickinson, John Bancroft, and Rosalie Bancroft, and grandparents Joseph Redmond, Teresa Redmond, and cousin Fitzhenry Springer, and the Rickinson grave. All Rickinson and Bancroft and Redmond family. It is a rainy day, so that is why outside it's raining. That is why outside they have water settled in this grave. So I'm in the countryside at the moment, but this is no ordinary countryside. This is known as the Scotland countryside because of its resemblance to the Scotland countryside in England. The grave of Calvin Adolphus Shorey and Delcina Ayansi Gertrude Shorey, Catherine Claudine Hunt. I guess that's how the name Shorey village across here in St. Andrew came about, because of the Shorey family. Shorey village is in St. Andrew, just across here. The Shorey village, St. Andrew. The Bannister family grave here. All the Bannisters put down in here. Egbert Lawrence Bannister, Muriel Madeline Bannister, Patricia Yvonne Lawrence Bannister, Lawrence Blair Bannister, Joyce Aldelia Bannister. So I in St. Andrew's Churchyard, St. Andrew Parish Church Cemetery. This is another historic church which carries some historic cemeteries. Some well-known Barbadians have been laid to rest here, such as Lindsay Worrell, Queen's Counsel. He was born the 27th of June 1929 and died the 21st of February 2013. And Enid Worrell, his wife. He was a loved father, grandfather, and brother. Ulrich Condy Mullins, the grave of Justice Joshua Augustus Uriah. The Lees are a popular family in St. Andrew. I don't know how many of you know the former Transport Authority President, Morris Lee. He is from St. Andrew. He used to own minibuses in Hillaby on this road, in St. Andrew, Hillaby Road, and other parts of Barbados as well. Morris Lee is from St. Andrew in Turner's Hall. So I guess his family, he has family laid to rest here. The grave of former cricketer Sir Conrad Hunt, a West Indian cricketer, Sir Conrad C. Hunt, Knight of St. Andrew, and West Indies cricketer, born 1932 and died in 1999. In loving memory of our parents, Conrad B. Hunt and Ethelene L. Hunt. That would be Conrad Hunt's parents, and Hugh Hunt, Carol L. Hunt, and Ivan Hunt will be his brothers. So this will be the eastern gate. I gotta be careful, I nearly slipped here just now. So I am in the beautiful parish of St. Andrew here in Barbados, in the Scotland district of Barbados. This is really the battle of St. Shorey Village. Shorey Village. Shorey Village is across here in St. Andrew. Shorey Village in St. Andrew, as well as the Morgan Lewis windmill, which is the oldest windmill in Barbados, which dates back to 1747. And it is the only working windmill in Barbados, in the Caribbean, and in the world. The only working windmill in Barbados, the Caribbean, and the world. With the four sails, which is the blades, like on the windmill, still intact. So, yeah, here in St. Andrew, it's all up in the hills of the Scotland district, all up in the hills of St. Andrew. Like I said before, when the people pass in the cars or walking and look at me, that is not going to bother me. This is a public place. I'm on the public road. It doesn't matter to me who look at me. I can understand if it was on somebody's property. This is a public road in Barbados. It is free. Anyone is free to take pictures or videos in a public place. Once you're in a public place, I'm not here to talk about how people, I'm not here to talk about the rules of taking pictures. I'm here to talk about St. Andrew Parish Church. I just mentioned that as a by the way thing. St. Andrew is a very beautiful scenic church here in Barbados in many ways. I forgot to mention that this way will lead you back to St. Peter as well, which is to the north of the island. St. Peter and St. Lucie can access this way, St. Peter, the Farley Hill National Park, which borders St. Peter and St. Andrew. Mostly in St. Peter, it will take you back to Pleasant Hall, Portland, and All Saints Church, which is also in St. Peter, and back down to Spikestown, also in St. Peter. And it will take you back to St. Lucie as well in the northernmost parish. So people that headed to St. Andrew from St. Peter, or headed to St. Peter, we use this route here. So I look all up in the hills, man. Look at all of the beauty of St. Andrew, all up in the hills here. The hills. Barbados may not be hilly like how Jamaica and St. Vincent and Trinidad and even Guyana, St. Lucia have hills, but we still have a few hills here in Barbados. A lot too, not just a little bit, a lot. So this beautiful rural church is a sight to behold here in Barbados. Back to where I started from. St. Andrew's Parish Church, Anglican Episcopal. Thank you guys for watching now, and do have a blessed evening.